Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint Monster Podcast presented by Spendthrift Farm, home of Breeders' Cup winner and champion sprinter, Matoli. Well, when it came to the Turf Sprint, I felt like there was no one better to come to than Maggie Wolfendale because she grew up around a bunch of turf sprinters.
That's true. That they were the backbone of my father's barn and string. Blue Sailor, he's a big star. Jiu-Jitsu Jacks. I mean, he dominated that random turf sprint stake at Atlantic City that, of course, they don't run anymore. I think they ran it like 6 or 7 times, and he won 4 or 5 of them.
Well, what makes a good 5 furlong turf sprinter, and do we see any of those in this race? Let's start with one of the shorter price horses, one that we were able to see this summer, and I was able to see on a TV screen. You were able to see in real life, and that's the number 8 AG Bullet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, AG Bullet, look, she's shown herself to be very competitive against the boys. I thought she ran incredibly well in this race last year at Del Mar. So there's every reason to believe that she can be competitive yet again. She's coming off the back of 2 wins, one, of course, in the Grade 1 Jaipur. And, she's not your typical big burly filly that matches up well to the boys. She's actually quite effeminate, which I found kind of interesting the first time I got to know her over this summer. But she's also incredibly handy. And I think what you asked, what makes a good 5 furlong sprinter, are those horses that are fleet-footed yet very handy to kind of cut those corners, to make those quick moves. And I think she possesses that.
Let's go to Keeneland to the 5.5. The Woodford, traditionally, horses that run well there show up in this race. Governor Sam, I've always been a huge fan of, not only because I'm friendly with the connections, but his race at the Indian Summer as a 2-year-old, when he set those blazing fast fractions. I'm always a fan of a turf sprinter that gets on like that. What do you think about that Woodford when it comes to Governor Sam and the Charlie Hills runner Kadim? Kadim. You'll get it right. Kadem. You got it.
Yeah, that's where Kirk Becker said it. To each its own, I suppose. But as far as Governor Sam, look, I was a little bit somewhat disappointed in him in his, start 2 back up at Saratoga 3 back when he finished second. And now he's run well, but he's yet to win. And I get there is an element that is a bit bigger in turf sprints than it is in other types of races of randomness. I feel like a lot of times these horses proverbially take turns beating each other. So there is kind of that element with him. And last time he kind of got back to what we've seen him do best, and that is be forward, contest the lead, and at times he's been able to draw away and put the rest of his competition away. It feels as though, I don't know if he's lost a touch of that early speed, or he's just is meeting faster horses, which very well could be the case. He is only 3. He's facing older, tougher, grizzled veterans. So that concerns me a little bit with him. And Kadem, who they decide to put blinkers on for this try in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, I find interesting off the back of a win. Now, he completely fluffed the break last time out. I mean, he was about 2-3 lengths slow once they sprung the latch. And I don't know how blinkers are going to help him other than maybe he breaks better, but I feel like it's just an element of European horses. He got the right setup last time. Granted, it's not like the pace was totally incinerating either. So he ran very well to win on his wrong lead, kind of lugging in. Maybe that's why they put the blinkers on too. But I really think he needs to be, considered in the conversation because of his 3 American starts, they're pretty darn good.
The level of racing that he's achieved is extremely rare. Anybody who's witnessed Matoli running sees a level of ability that doesn't come along that often.
Matoli's a monster! Matoli wins the sprint! Oh, what a horse he is! Matoli, he did it again! Wins the mid-mile!
The only thing to be better than one Matoli's a few Matolis.
The mighty Matoli, who won the Fargo by 3.5 lengths, the new stakes record.
Let's talk a little bit about the home team. When I say the home team, I'm not just talking the U.S. I'm talking California with the rail runner Motorious, who's definitely has a little bit of an edge on these, having run at Del Mar 5 times having won there 4 times. So you know that Motorious will appreciate the distance and the surface and the configuration. What are your thoughts on this California turf sprinter down on the inside?
Uh, if he had a bit more speed, I'd say the draw's great. You wonder with a horse that is that closing sprinter, how the inside affects him. Yeah, he can take the shortest way around there, but how much traffic is he going to encounter? That is up to Antonio Frezu, who's running brilliantly in most of his starts. So I thought he ran really well, encountering trouble last time out. Obviously DQ'd and elevated for the win, but I do think what you led the conversation with is crucial. The fact that he has shown the ability to be so effective at Del Mar during the 5/8. We talk about it all the time up at Saratoga, right? When we have horses coming from Belmont or Aqueduct, and that's the 6 furlongs, and it's only half a furlong less, but it becomes a completely different animal.
Well, speaking of a completely different animal, this summer, Bring the Band Home was a completely different animal. And if it wasn't for sovereignty on a number of occasions, Bring the Band Home would be in the conversation for one of the most impressive performances I saw all summer. What do you think went wrong last time, and what do you think will happen on Saturday?
Is he a horse for course? We talked about it a little bit before we came on. You said maybe it's that kind of different Woodbine inner turf course. I don't know. But it does also feel like his 2 performances at Saratoga live somewhat in isolation this year, and his only other start last year was a win in Saratoga. And obviously he's gotten faster as a 5-year-old, as you tend to see with these turf sprinters. They kind of peak, 4 to 5 to even 6. So I don't know. It really feels like he loves Saratoga. I mean, we see it all the time with horses that they really thrive when they get up there. And could it be him not necessarily loving other turf courses? And I think I really don't see that many similarities in Saratoga versus Del Mar, other than like the tight turns. But he's fast, and that can always be dangerous.
Well, I won't hold your feet to the fire. They just drew last night when we recorded this. Any leans, though? Anything that you're looking forward to seeing run in this spot, and where you think that the price could be right? They look good on the racetrack. You could potentially pick as a top horse.
What do they have AG Bullet as? I forget now.
4-1.
4-1. I'm sure we're getting a little bit of a better price on her, but for me, that's who I'd want. I'll take the girl against the boys. She's a 5-year-old mare now. Last year she was a 4-year-old, and I thought, she even had a little bit of trouble in that last Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and I think that she's hitting on all cylinders, and it really feels like I hope it's intentional, the spacing of her races. But with that space, she's responded very well in her last 2 efforts. So for me, it'd be her, because it's not like she's a closing sprinter. She can have the lead, but she can also run well from out of it. And I feel like that, element of speed, but adaptability is going to serve her very well going the 5/8.